question is the debate be adjourned. The member for Melbourne, my apologies, has the call.
Thank you, Speaker. I move that so much of standing and sessional orders be suspended as would prevent the member for Melbourne from moving forthwith that private member's business item number 12, government investment in research, standing in the name of the member for Melbourne on the notice paper, be returned from the Federation Chamber and considered immediately. Madam Speaker, there was a motion that everyone thought we were going to be voting on today, and that is a motion that, amongst other things, notes the growing concern amongst the science and research community about security of funding, and the important and operative part calls on the Treasurer to guarantee that science and research funding will be protected this financial year and rule out any attempt to defer, freeze or pause Australia Research Council, National Health and Medical Research Council or other science and research grants in an attempt to achieve a budget surplus. Now, Speaker, this was a motion that was debated in October of last year. This was a motion that the Selection Committee recommended for a vote. This was a motion that was expected to turn up on the notice paper today. But when we turned up, the motion was not included on the notice paper. Now, there's a number of potential reasons for that. One might be that the motion was likely to succeed. I anticipate that there will be a significant amount of support from the crossbench, and I understand the coalition may even be supporting it as well. Now, if that's the reason, that is of concern. Private members' motions in this place that have been through the proper process and have been waiting since last year for a vote ought not be pulled simply because of the potential outcome. I also know, of course, there's been a recent reshuffle and there is a new Science and Research Minister. But this isn't a motion that calls on the Science and Research Minister to do anything. It's a motion that calls on the Treasurer to make certain guarantees. And it's urgent that we suspend standing orders and vote on this now, because now is obviously the time that the government is beginning the process of preparing the budget. Now, budget preparation time is a time of growing and great consternation amongst many in the science and research community in this country. In my EFO, we saw the Sustainable Research Excellence program cut by $500 million over the forward estimates. And of course, 2 budgets before that, scientists and researchers had to mobilise in their lab coats in their thousands around the country to prevent mooted cuts to health and medical research. Now, in our view, the reason that we're in this problem where the government is looking around at places like science to save some money is because of the failure to secure the country's revenue base and raise the money that we need to fund for the services and the expenditures that Australians expect. And one of those, especially in my electorate of Melbourne, but especially in Victoria, is the area of science and research. Now, we need to be clear that science and research ought not be a honeypot that governments go back to every time they need a bit of money to make the budget balance. Science and research will be a foundation of a clean economy and will set us up for after the mining boom. Now, the cuts, of course, hurt jobs. The cuts to the Sustainable Research Excellence program were going to hurt, according to the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research at Melbourne University, somewhere in the order of 1,400 jobs that are being threatened. Now, those jobs are just as important as jobs in the manufacturing industry. Now, but it's not just the cuts that hurt jobs, it's the speculation.
If the member for Melbourne could resume his seat, the Leader of the House on a point of order.
Just a point of order. I don't wish to disrupt the member for Melbourne's time, but I don't have a copy of the resolution that's been moved, so it's not clear to me what the implications are. So perhaps if it could be, we could indicate whether there's a seconder for it, and therefore it will proceed. And then, if we could get a copy of it once it's been seconded, that might suit the convenience of the House.
The member for Melbourne has the call, and if he could make available a copy of the motion to the attendant. Could I get an attendant to take the copy and photocopy it, please?
Thank you. I have a copy of the motion available here.
Thank you.
It's not just the cuts that hurt jobs, and of course the cuts to Sustainable Research Excellence are going to hurt somewhere in the order of 1,400 jobs. It's the speculation that hurts jobs as well, because if you are a researcher wanting to start out in Australia, you should know that whoever is in government, your funding is going to be secured, and you should know from budget to budget that the whole of the parliament treats science and research with sufficient importance that it's not going to be tinkered with from budget to budget. And every time there is this speculation in the lead-up to the budget, it affects the choices that people make, and it affects the ability of external investment, especially from the private sector, to come in and join in and invest in the world-leading medical and health research that goes on, especially in Victoria. So what I hope is that we have the opportunity in this parliament to put some of these issues beyond doubt and take them out of the realm of party politics, and that is what the motion intended to do. The motion intended to lay the groundwork for the budget, which wasn't even calling for an increase in funding, but just calling for no cuts. Now, that should be something that is very easy to be agreed upon, and if we agree upon it now, it will give a lot of people a lot more security over the coming months. So I do hope that this House does allow this motion to be brought on, not only to allow the processing of private members' business in an orderly fashion, so that when we think a motion is going to be voted on, it is voted on, but also to give some security to the scientists and to the researchers around this country that we're not going to come back and keep raiding them and their budgets time and time again simply because we've been unable to secure this country's revenue base.